Thank you very much for uh, accepting my request to confirm if I'm audible. So, before I request Dr. Deepak Bharathan to speak about the rock painting conservation and preservation and the related things, I would like to give something like a preliminary note about the existence and the message of rock paintings. My students of fourth semester of heritage management, they have been exposed to varied informations about the heritage things, and I'm sure they have heard Dr. S.B. Ota about the Bhimbedka paintings, which are considered as one of the top 25 heritage rock paintings of the world. These rock paintings, they are something like the past, very past is present in the present. The past is present in the present in different forms. Our present is something like, one may say, evolving from the past. But one may also say that past is something, or some aspect of the past is, if I'm allowed to say that, it is in a fossilized form. I'm using the word fossil. Fossil is something like a very ancient remain, which anyhow remained in between the rocks and continued to remain. So the rock paintings, they speak about the mind of the very ancient people, how the geometrical figures they painted, and there are examples of the paintings and the drawings which are superimposed on the earlier drawings. So I think with this introduction, I'm just trying to give importance to the rock paintings and rock drawings, that how the past is in a very fossilized form, if I'm allowed to use the word fossilized, how the past is present in the present, and how one can understand about the life and time of the past. So with these words, I invite Dr. Bharathan, Dr. Deepak Bharathan, to please speak about whatever you have chosen to speak for today. You are invited, sir. Please start your lecture.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for inviting me and also giving me this opportunity. I will just start the PPT. I hope everybody can see. Okay. Sir has already given us an introduction about Bhimbedka painting, so I will not go into the details of Bhimbedka and the historical importance of the site. Of course, it holds the pride of place for as Indian citizen, as part of human civilization. It represents the combined cultural heritage of the entire human race. So that part is definitely there. As a student of heritage management, it is actually a privilege to be to even to understand, to have that the extra sensory, I would say, sensibilities that this whole course is aimed to provide to students. So on that note, Rock art is basically, it's a, as Sarah has also mentioned, it's a precious cultural heritage of humankind. It is considered to be one of the earliest fine art practiced by early man to decorate the cave shelters. The exact purpose for which these cave paintings were made is still not very clear. They could be ceremonial, spiritual, aesthetic, or shamanic purposes for hunting or for any other purpose. They, what we can discern is that they definitely had some um, importance. The artworks works were symbolic representation of something higher. So the true reasons may never be known to us right now, but it is beyond doubt that they represent the genesis of art and expression by human civilizations. Wall paintings are quite similar. So when it comes to conservation, the cave paintings and rock paintings are generally treated more or less the same way in which wall paintings are documented or conserved. So wall paintings are, I hope I'm audible to everyone. Hello? Hello?
Yes, you are audible, Dr. Deepak.
Oh, okay. Just wall paintings are paintings which are executed on wall as support, and they are an integral part of the architectural decorations. They could be primitive or as well as dark caves or gentile other caves. So the basic concept remains the same, whether it's um, man's first artistic expression or the later on more sophisticated Bag or Junta caves. So these wall paintings are what later on they, as Raposa has very rightly mentioned, that past and the present there is a continuity. So it was because of these rock paintings that we have the present day wall murals, whether it is in Kerala, the temple murals in Kerala, which you can see, or the painted wall paintings on churches, civic buildings, or even our own Banarasi Ghat, maybe there are paintings. So there is a continued tradition. Modern day graffiti art is basically it traces back its history to the cave paintings. So the richness of wall paintings is founded on the variety of cultural expressions, its aesthetic achievements, and the diversity of materials and techniques that is employed in making these wall paintings. So wall paintings, as I had mentioned in my previous lecture and even during the visit also, that when you talk about a painting, it should not be taken in its as a single unit. A painting consists of multiple layers. So there is, in this particular slide, you can see that a wall painting has a layered structure. Just like any other painting, wall painting also has a layered structure. First of all, there will be a primary support, then there will be secondary support, and then there will be a paint layer. So the support basically carries the picture. It could be a dressed rock or a wall on which a painting has been executed. Then there will be a ground on which is prepared. It is actually plastered to create a smoother and less porous surface on which the paintings are executed. Um, in India, these ground is basically consists of clay, mud, lime, gypsum, and it also has other additives like hair, husk, plant fibers that basically consolidate the structure and gives it a more solid uh, structure so that the entire paint ground can support the pigments. So variations in material of the ground depend upon their availability, locally available materials used with, and also upon the requirements of the techniques to be employed for execution of the painting. So there are different techniques of paintings which I will show you. What are the techniques of wall painting? I'm sure you have already studied this in your entire course. So, whereas the techniques of wall painting are fresco bruno, which is basically refers to a painting executed on fresh lime plaster while it is still moist. The pigments are mixed with water and then brushed onto the ground layer. And then another technique is fresco seco, where the painting is combined with the pigments and they are painted on the lime plaster. Until the ground is basically dry. So in order to differentiate between fresco bruno and fresco seco, the fresco seco is a drier wall. Then another technique is alagila, in which it is basically an indigenous technique where the wet fresco is where the pigments are mixed with an organic binder, and then the pigments are applied on a wet plaster. But unlike frescoes, the pigments are mixed with a binding material. So this is what differentiates it from fresco bruno. Only another technique is tempera, which involves execution on a dry plaster. The pigments are mixed with a medium. It could be either aqueous or an emulsion, like egg yolk, and which fixes them as the paint layer dries. So here are these two examples of alagila and tempera. So, cave paintings in Leh Ladakh are basically an example of some of the cave paintings are in tempera technique. What are the reasons for deterioration of wall paintings? Wall paintings, just like any other organic artifact, the object is basically damaged through its environmental conditions. So, as the first few slides portray, the wall painting is a layered structure. So each of those components which together form the painting, if any environmental factor or external factor contributes to the deterioration of one of these components, the entire wall structure becomes destabilized. So among the various factors that cause damage to a wall painting, moisture is one of the most destructive, because since it's a wall painting, it has a direct link with moisture. So it directly interacts with the environmental um, conditions. So here are if you want to take a screenshot, maybe you can do that. So moisture or water, seepage or water, temperature, light, environmental pollutions, biological growth, or any internal structure. The internal causes could be which are related because of the inherent structure, the way the painting has been created. If there is any internal tensions or faulty techniques have been used, so the painting will be further damaged. And then, of course, needless to say, human vandalism. Some common issues that are faced in conservation of rock paintings across the world. So, these are some of the environmental factors. So, which we can see, the rock paintings and as well as the wall paintings, they more or less face the similar issues when it comes to conservation. So, one is the major factor is vandalism, which is either deliberate or it could be because of unknown lack of knowledge or lack of. I mean, the intention was not to damage the object, but somehow due to some human intervention, the damage actually was caused. And of course, climate control. Since most of the paintings are basically they exist in outdoor sites, so they are exposed to the outside elements, wind, um, biological growth like bacteria, like in moss, and there is biological influences like bats, because most of these paintings they were painted in wall caves. So problem of animal the excreta of especially bats are a very major contributing factor for the damage of paintings. And what are the solutions, or what are the what as a conservator, what would be the area that a conservator would like to focus on? So first of all would be to control the environment in which the cave paintings or the wall paintings exist. If possible, the ideal situation would be to, in some cases, to remove the painting from the site and put it in a museum-like environment. But I'm sure this is a very destructive method and not possible everywhere. And not only that, it is a very unethical step to do, because you are separating the painting from its original context and moving it to a completely newer site that may not even have relevance with the historicity, cultural, or any other context in which the painting actually has to be seen. But at the same time, what are the other areas that a conservator has to focus on? So wind erosion, again, it is a very difficult thing to control this particular factor. But influence of biological elements like animals, lichen, or reduction of moisture, or controlling the moisture or related humidity levels, temperature, all of them can be controlled to a greater extent, which are far more um, manageable steps to take rather than moving the entire wall painting to a newer site. When it comes to vandalism, as I said, that there are two types of vandalism. One is deliberate and another is unintentional. So the intentional vandalism, there will primary focus would be on graffiti. So one example which I had mentioned during the visit by students at Bharat Kala Bhavan, that the cave paintings in Ajanta, they have segregated one entire cave painting which has not been conserved. When I visited the caves almost a decade ago, I could see that they have deliberately left it unconserved as a monument to human vandalism. So there were many visitors, or early visitors, or I don't know which period the Ajanta, that particular cave was more or less destroyed by human intervention. But that entire cave is actually a testament to how lack of knowledge can actually be far more destructive. So, as we can see that these are the various issues that the cave wall paintings face. However, it is very difficult to employ or to provide the artifact in a museum-like environment. Uh, Even though that is an ideal situation, but not always possible. So the unintentional vandalism is more or less, it could be because of lack of awareness, or the inadequacy of funds which are available to conserve, preserve, or to move the sites to safer locations. Sometimes there is a problem of construction of dams or any other structures that can cause greater damage in the long run. And also the environmental factors like pollution, um, acid rain, all of them have a long-term impact on the life of wall paintings like rock structures. So it is important to reinforce the fact that rock art is not just a casual decoration. We have to when we have to address lack of awareness about rock art, we have to reinforce this fact that rock art is not just a casual decoration. It represents a far more important aspect of human civilization. So, in order to preserve them, the most important step would be to spread the awareness and and have a concerted effort between government, between different institutions, museums, educational institutions. All of them can come together to create, to find viable, sustainable solutions for preservation of wall paintings. So here, this slide basically shows the impact of water damage. As you can see, since the wall paintings are in direct contact with the wall, and there is a water can cause serious damage, not just only losing the paint layer, but also it can weaken the very structure behind on which the paintings are painted. Then the another slide, which you can see over here, it basically shows the problems caused by fluctuations in relative humidity and temperature, where the layers behind the painting are separated and have become very, it is more like delaminated. So a conservator will have to find solutions to to increase the adhesion of the wall, because what happens is that the temperature and relative humidity fluctuation they cause problem of adhesion between components that together form the wall structure. There is another slide that shows the before and after treatment of a wall painting. Where you can see the cracks that have been caused by this is the after treatment. And another slide that shows the before and after treatment method. The thing here has been reinforced in the second slide. I would like to show I would like to show you two there is a video of Longthorpe in England. This is a tower where I don't know what is happening here. I'm extremely sorry, but my technical issues, I don't even know what happened. Hello?
This is an information. Dr. Deepak Bharathan is asking that let us reschedule this lecture on a day which would be suitable for Dr. Bharathan. So let us, I should say, conclude today's lecture, and we would be again meeting to hear his rest of the lecture. The remaining lecture we would be listening to, and Dr. Deepak Bharathan would be kind enough to tell us the coming date. So I thank Dr. Bharathan and Sri S.K. Tripathi Sahab and my students who joined lecture and whatever the slides Dr. Deepak Bharathan shown, that would be that we would have a record, and I would just supply that to the students. So don't worry, the rest of the lecture would be rescheduled for future date. So with these words, I take permission to conclude, and thank you everyone. Thank you very much, Dr. Deepak. Thank you,
Thank
S.K.
you.
Tripathi Sahab, and thank you all the students who joined the class so attentively. So thanks everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.